Hello and welcome back. So in the previous episode I was talking about the next industry we'd be setting up would be a steel industry, where we would be doing the encased steel beams in conjunction with the regular steel beams and the steel pipes that we have connected here. So in the meantime, as we are creating steel beams here, and as these are a very important part of our ability to create the next level of conveyor belt, we're going to utilize, just as we have previously, what we have already to create a very simple surplus of what we have here. Encased steel beams or industrial beams. And so this is going to tick away and it'll do its thing as we are messing around in this area. We'll delete it when we're ready, but we might as well not waste time and have things just stacking up and being unused over there. And then we will, once we have this steel beam factory over here up and running, we will connect this one to it after we've also created a nice concrete factory to feed it as well with as much as possible. While I've been wandering around, we've left this thing over here to do the smart plating for us, and we are now up to the 1,000 that we need, and I believe we have some surplus here as well. So what we're going to do is swap the recipe over for this one. So we'll turn the machine off, take these out, and then from here we're going to want the versatile framework. Now we have very large quantity of both of those items, so that should be able to get that made really nice and quickly for us. And we haven't started making the status yet. And then what I shall do is I'll connect up the modular frames, which are just there, and then we also have the steel beams as well. And to make things a little easier with this particular piece of machinery, what I can do, because we no longer require this feed in here, I will create a container down here. I often do this where I have one container and then another one on top of it, and I can bring the materials over in large quantities and just let it do its thing. Because our beams are all the way over there, so we would have to have a pretty messy belt system coming all the way over here. So let's do that quickly. We'll take this off. And I'll put down a container. Turn that round. Go into there. We can delete this now because we don't need the iron plates either to go into there. We have, as you can see, a lot of these now. I'm going to grab some of these for myself because I have a feeling this may actually eat quite a lot of these things in the process, and I also need them for other things as well. So we'll place one of these here. And then we'll run it along the wall. And have this here. And connect that up. And so now we have a very quick and easy supply. You can see by thinking a little bit about it beforehand where you want to place these things, you can shorten your time quite a lot. And for the early stages of the phases, they tend to require very simple parts that you're already producing from your main factories. So now I need to turn this back on again. And we should start to see, once I've put some beams in here, we should now start to see, there we go. So it's only making 5 per minute, but that's alright. We could always overclock it if we really want it to get it steaming and we have enough stuff coming through for it. But again, never leave anything sitting doing nothing if you can get a few things done at a time. That's always good. What we are going to need to do though, unfortunately here, because it's going to block the way through, I think. And there's probably some stuck in here, so what I'll do, I'll take this off. And then I'll reconnect this here. And now those should flow through nicely. And yeah, we can see in the top right corner there, we've got 2 in there now. So that's unblocked properly. And then we can take these smart platings that we've got, because we obviously don't want to have them hanging around in our inventory wasting space. Okay, here we are tying up the last of the hub upgrades for this phase.
Milestone reached. By adding hypertube entrances at both ends of hypertubes, pioneers can achieve two-way travel between locations. They are also % safer than jump pads. You dreamed of moving across factories like valued resources, such as rocks and water, and FICSIT listened to your dreams. We watched them. We took extensive notes. Hypertubes. Because FICSIT makes pioneers' closely monitored dreams come true.
So we have the blueprint designer now, which is good. I shall place that down. I'll do that in a minute, and then I will show you. We have the miner Mark II. We've got all sorts of power options and power storage as well. Logistics is great. We've now got stackable pipelines. We've got conveyor Mark III, which is very fast and allows us to really get knuckling down to some proper production. We have industrial size storage. Some signs as well that we can start putting up on some of the chests and or containers rather, and some other factories. We can also label them, even put down parts per minute and things like that to help us with calculations. We have the hypertube now. This one it uses up quite a lot of power, but it's quite useful for just zipping between little sectors. Yeah, that's it for now. So, now that the upgrades have been done, and I've shown you a little bit of the alien technology stuff, and we've got a few of the more useful upgrades, now we're going to knuckle down. So I'm going to start by building a quick and effective factory for the concrete to come up, and then we will tie that in with the steel industry, bringing some coal. I may have a second vehicle come around here and deliver coal to this one specifically so that it's not bleeding too much of the coal over there. And then the coal that goes to there can be used for the 2 nodes, iron nodes that are pulling out at the moment, and that can be switched over just to pipes. So I'll bring you back when I've got things a bit better organised and when things are looking a little cleaner. I won't do the step-by-step building of this type of small industry here. I might show you some of the steel stuff because it's got some useful information in there, but you've already seen enough of this one for me to not repeat it for you. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so our cement factory is up and running on concrete. We have one miner that's only able to produce 120, and that's a Mark II, which means this is a normal supply of limestone, but that's fine. I've split it off into 3 constructors. Each of those are creating concrete, and then they are merging together into storage containers. We have 1 distribution from here and 1 distribution from here. This one is connected to this rudimentary system that we've set up just to keep making the beams while we're working, but that will be deleted at some point. And I'll show you inside the plant itself. And so we have, first off is our miner in here, and that is connected to a runoff storage container. Then we have constructors on either side of it. Those are merged together at this point. And head upstairs where they meet with a 3rd constructor in the middle there, you can just see. And then all of those merge together into these 2 storage containers. The merge takes place here. And the reason for that is so we can get an even distribution on both sides. This is producing 120 per minute, or rather it is consuming 120 limestone per minute, and it's producing whatever maximum the Let's have a look and see. We're getting 40 in total per minute out of this factory in its current unoverclocked status. So that's basically the main production of this one set up and good to go. We've got some walkways here that could just help us around if we ever need to get there. And then at the bottom here is what I was telling you about how I like to control how much power I'm using in case there's a problem somewhere. This is exactly the kind of production factory that you want to shut down when things get a bit wonky on the power supply. Concrete is used fairly a lot, but it's not as important as some others, and so you can just rush over and switch it off. It's off at the moment. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm hoping that with the current power that we've got coming through here, shouldn't actually be a problem. So I'm going to flick this now. Oh, there we go. So you can see we've got a little bit of a peak now on all machines running together. But as far as our capacity is concerned, we're well underneath that. And everything has fired up. And this is a Mark II. And that's running at a standard speed, producing 120. If this limestone was pure deposit, we would be getting 240 out of that one with this miner. And so up here we can see these are working away, producing their concrete. And then we will head upstairs to this one. And hopefully this is doing the same. Yep, that's powered up. And then the concrete, it's going into the containers here initially, and then coming out again, because obviously I want it to be fed out to other supply requirements. So the containers won't have anything in them until I could put some in here actually, because this is from the old container downstairs. Let's equal that out a little bit. And with these additionally large containers that we have here, we should be able to supply and have in storage a huge quantity from this one very mediocre limestone plot. So I'm going to leave that running. So this is kind of a mess at the moment. I mean, it's a tidy mess, I guess. But it will be gone. And that will then be taken over here somewhere and put into a proper factory complex that'll be producing at a faster rate. So just out of interest, we have here, this is using 36 per minute. So, and what did I work it out at up there? 40 per minute is coming out of the machine at the top there. So it's really only one of these that can actually run at a time. We also have some more limestone over here that we've got a plot. There may be another one near here somewhere that we can also connect into this hub here and then continue building from that. We can also overclock this building if we really want to. So there you go. Our concrete is up and running. So I decided to take some of these encased steel beams and see how much they were worth inside the awesome sink, because for the moment we need some more unlocks and we don't really have anything of value. So I've put in 3 stacks. We've had quite a few stacks over there in production, and it's actually bringing us in some pretty nice points here. So we've got 4 coupons already. Let's see how much we've got left, and we've still got part of a stack here. Let's put another stack in there. That still leaves us with 200 to utilise, and we're still producing it as well. But this hopefully will give us enough. There we go, we're up to 5 now. Enough of these coupons that we can have a look and see what else we can unlock. See how much more? 35. I've also got the Mark III, inserting it into the machine now, which is definitely a benefit if you're dumping a lot of stuff into this thing. So that's the last of it. 7 coupons. Very nice. Very, very nice. Alright, so yeah, that was very good. And also later on, when we get to the next phase, we'll be able to sell the reinforced modular pieces, which I showed you previously, and those are very valuable and can bring in a ton of points. But they do take a while to make as well, so we'll have to have a pretty good industry up and running to be able to sink those in nicely. But anyway, progress, excellent. I've made the decision now to supply this one with some more steel beams than we have currently, because we do have quite a long ways to go on there. As you can see, we've only done 200 out of 1,000. And we really need to be more like 50% than 20% at this stage. So what I've done is I've deleted the reinforced beams that we were doing down here. They're nice to have, but they're not essential at the moment. And we will get back to doing those over here fairly soon. And we have a few in stock that we can utilize, and we can always manually make some more if we need to. But for now, the steel beams that we're making here are being somewhat hammered. We haven't really got any in stock left because of the casings down here. So instead, we're just going to feed them straight off to there. They can help us with our next phase, which we really want to try to unlock as soon as possible. And now I'm going to sort out a transport route to bring some coal up to here. And then we will start to set this one up to do what we were doing down there, but with a lot more steel. So I will set up the initial transportation thing, and then I will record it so that you can see how I've done that particular route for this part. I'm back at our power station area. So we've got the coal, it's not wired up yet. I need to also, I think, add another power plant, but I need to get water up here before I do that. Or I might just for now put a second water pump down here, and then maybe another power plant, or if I can squeeze in a second one. But one should be enough for us to be able to get a decent amount of extra power, because we're a little bit on the edge right now. Anyway, so I'm going to continue with this, tidy this up a little bit, make my decision on the power, and then I'll get into making the route that's going to take us back to deliver the coal. So we're ready to set up our transportation now for the coal to be brought here, and I'll walk you through the basic steps. So where we have the coal over on the other side, we have a truck station, and the default setting is to load, and that will then obviously load up the vehicle with the goods. That's the this vehicle setting here is for the vehicle specifically, obviously. So we've set this one to offload or unload. Now we're going to get inside the vehicle, and you can see here we already have some from a previous attempt doing this recording, which didn't go as well as I would like to have. So I'm redoing this, and then we begin recording. So you press the Q button, and then you start recording. And then immediately press Q again, and that'll get rid of the window, and off you go. So we're going to come up to the station here, offload, and count to about 20. And then we'll set off, very carefully, as tight as we can. And we're going to try to avoid following the same paths as we will be coming up from, so that we don't meet head-on with other traffic. They will give way to each other if they're in front of each other on the same line, in the same direction. But if they meet head-to-head, they will stop and everything just kind of goes pear-shaped, and it's you have to either reset it or completely redo the vehicle route. So we're just going to follow the other route here now that we had for the other vehicle, because again they will slow down for each other and that kind of stuff. So we should have a fairly nice route. There you go, there's the other one. It's not bothered by us at all. We just have to make sure we don't get close enough to the opposite side. The vehicle's a bit glidey and skippy here, so it can be a bit tricky. Later on in the game you probably want to build roads and stuff to make it a little less awkward. Right, now we have a fairly clear run here. I've left a bit of space on the right hand side here, so that when we come back we're not in the way Because this time we're not going down that pathway, we're going over here. So again, we're going to just slow it down a little bit when we get to the new destination. Any wheelies here if we can help it. And then we're going to stop here, offload, and wait for about another 20 seconds again. And hopefully with the two vehicles running on the same path we shouldn't have any conflicts between the two. But it's a bit of a trial and error. Usually if you use the foundations as a guideline, just don't go on the same foundation line and give yourself a couple of meters on either direction. And remember as well with the plants, berry plants and things like that, if you drive over them you will destroy them permanently. And so here I'm going to follow, although this crosses lines, they should give way to each other. I'm going to follow and join onto this path for now, because the other direction was a little bit tight. I'm not sure that I want that to be quite so tight there. And at least with this one, we know vehicles are both going in the same direction again, so they shouldn't have any traffic issues and be stopping each other. You're probably going to want to keep an eye as well on your vehicles for a few attempts, just to make sure that nothing is going too wonky. It'll usually come up with an exclamation mark on the top radar. If you have vehicle issues, it'll just tell you vehicle and then an exclamation mark, and then you have to go and sort it out before it'll correct itself. If you ignore it, then your vehicles are basically doing nothing, and they will not auto-correct themselves. So here we're going to keep this nice and tight along here, get back into that left-hand lane, flying straight past this vehicle truck stop, which we did actually reposition. And then we're going to go up on this one. And then we're going to cross here. Hopefully that shouldn't cause too many issues, that crossover. There we have it. Completed. I'm going to jump out quickly of the vehicle. Hit escape and then jump out, and I've noticed that if you delete the marker where you have these two on top of each other, this is where it tends to kind of go a bit wonky. So we're going to delete that node there. That should give a nice space between them. Move forward a bit away from that node. I think if you start in between each one, it doesn't go crazy. And then we bring the Q button back up again, and then enable autopilot. And then when you hit the Q button and jump out, off the vehicle goes. And there you go, that was much smoother that time. You should see now, it should be loading up there. There you go, that's absolutely full now, which is excellent. So there you have it. Nice, simple. For now, this crossover isn't going to be a problem at all for us. But if we were to add another vehicle over here, a second one, then this crossover potentially could cause a traffic jam. We're not going to worry about that too much for now, because one vehicle is more than enough to be able to deal with this. And in case you're wondering why we have so much space being left here, and also over here, and where I had built the factories over here, this was actually pre-planned before construction of these sites. We always leave a couple width at the very least for the vehicles, because they are quite cumbersome. They have a tendency of needing quite a bit of space to turn around, and if you can imagine the distance that we have, which is 1 kilometer away for the coal, if you can imagine trying to run belts from that distance all the way over here to give us the coal that we require, it's far more hassle. So when you're planning your factory, always consider, before putting large structures like this side by side and leaving yourself no space in between, just consider the fact that you may want vehicles at some point to be delivering goods one place or another. So just a little bit of information there, a little bit of a tip, if you like, as to pre-planning before you start making your large factories. Also, if you want to have a current example of what's going on with your vehicles, you can see on the top radar, you can just see their tractor. And then you can see another one just near the Caterium thing here on the left for the other tractor. If there was a traffic issue here, those two would be blinking with an exclamation mark, and you would be able to tell whether or not there is a problem with your transportation in its current state. And as you can see, they're actually fine. There's no problems. In fact, this is where there could be an issue, where they're starting to cross over. And no problem at all. They passed each other. So we have a nice working system in place here for the both vehicles to be doing two completely different things. Here's another great example of the zip line. So obviously carrying around steel plates or iron plates and concrete can allow you to build various parts and stuff quite easily. That's great for vehicles and if you're doing anything permanent, but if you want just a quick run to something, here we go. We have a slug down here. There's clearly nothing else really to be had down there, and it's a hell of a fall into that ditch. And really quite tricky to get to, but so easy with just a couple of power lines. And so I can just jump up on here. Oops. And then work my way back up again really easily. Super useful. Really very useful tool, especially in the trees and stuff when you're trying to get the slugs that are very high up in awkward trees where you can sometimes place the power lines down actually in the tree itself. So yeah, another little tip there. I think I've shown this one before, but it's just another good example. Alright, so just quickly, little doggo's come over. This one has found me 9 turbo motors. Now I don't know what this is, but it's definitely a late game unlock because we haven't got access to it yet. So this shows you again, we get some pretty nice stuff off these little things. Even if you don't use it, you might be able to use it for research. If it's not required for research, then you can put it into to the FICSIT crusher and use it for the shop. I'm pretty sure it'll be worth something in there as well. So yeah, always keep an eye out for these things and try and tame as many of them as you can. So this is the preliminary layout. I've decided to take the 2 iron mines into this area here and be quite generous with the footprint, rather than trying to fit it into this smaller cramped area down there near the mines themselves. So I've cleared this area at the top. It's also a bit of a path leading down onto another plateau there that can lead into other areas. So I've placed a vehicle path if we ever need to use a vehicle down there. And for now, we have this as our floor footprint to begin building our factory, to start utilising some of the metal that's coming from, the coal rather, and the metal coming from those industries and creating our new steel industry. So I'm going to start putting this factory together and I'll bring you back during the process. But before I forget to mention it, my wife reminded me last night that one of the things you can do whilst building your factory to save time having to constantly go into the build menu here is with the middle mouse button. If you aim at an item and press the middle mouse button, it will automatically bring that item up to build. As you can see here, just randomly selecting with the mouse button. So that can be really useful if you've got a lot of stuff going on in one building and you're using many of the same items. Just rather than constantly going back or using the hotbar down at the bottom, just simply middle click and then you can place down another one of the same item. So far what we have going on over here with this particular mine is 240 iron ore being pumped out per second. That's being fed into a large container, industrial sized container. And we then have a elevation belt, which is also, I believe, 270 items per second, which is more than fast enough. And then what we're doing is we're bringing that up to this location where we're going to start splitting and then feeding out iron that's coming from this over here to our foundries. We can have 5.3 foundries kicking out steel from this one mine as the base line of production, so no overclocking involved. So I'm going to put down 6 in total, and then we will also bring the coal from over here. We will feed that into here, and we will also split it. And then, so we have 6 inlets here to provide each of the boundaries. And then we will have another 6 that will bring the coal into them as well. So to begin with, I'm going to do this with you because I haven't done this with you previously right from the outset. So we're coming from here, and I want it to be fairly central. And again, for people that are familiar with the game and have done this many times, I know this is probably old news, but for people that aren't familiar with it, you're basically trying to split into 6 ways a 3-way system. So you start with 1, you then split that into 2, and then from those 2 you supply your main supply. So in this case we would come up to here, and that would then split off into 2. We would turn that around so it's feeding into this one, and you can now see we have the in fact, actually probably a better way to do it would be more centrally here, or maybe, yeah, I think maybe into that one there. So we'll try and get a good line so that the belts are clean, because we're not going to use the front one there. So we come out of here, up into here. We come from there into there. We go from there into there, into there, and into there. So as you can see here, it's very fast flow. And then we're going to repeat the same on the other side. There's me not bothering to use that tip my awesome wife reminded me of. So that's going to be there. So again, we're coming from out of that side into there, that to there, that to there, and that to there. And now we have exactly the same flow going through each one of these lines. If you were to try to do this differently, like you come out of one and then go into another one and then split this one here into 3, what's going to happen is that the one that's going off in this direction will have less materials, or rather, let me rephrase that. You're getting an equal amount coming from each side of this through the splitter. So the more lines you have coming from this side, for example, the more strained this is going to be to keep up with the same flow that this would have, having just one coming out of it. I hope that makes sense. It's not so complicated. But basically, what we've got here is an absolute perfect flow of iron coming through. I say perfect, actually, because of the 6, we might need to overclock, just so that we can bump up the quantity that's coming through here for that 6th foundry, or we may just simply allow it to run a little bit slack, so that it's missing a few beats here and there. It won't make a huge difference at this stage. Alright, I'm going to carry on connecting this stuff up, but hopefully that was useful information there for you for future planning. One of the issues that we may have with this coal vehicle station that we have here, truck station, is with the flow rate that we have coming through. According to this, our incoming transfer rate is only 12 items per minute, which isn't going to be very sustainable with the amount of stuff we've got coming through here when we're using 240 per minute, potentially more, of the coal. So I'm going to keep an eye on it, see how it flows, but it could be that we will end up having to put many vehicles on this run to basically be bringing this stuff in at a higher rate as possible. And we can also unlock, on one of the next phases, we can unlock a truck, which is a much larger vehicle that can carry much more. But it's also a bit more cumbersome, takes up a bit more space, and it may require a new route to do that. So I'm going to keep an eye on it as it goes, but it does mean that this factory may be stopping and starting and hiccuping from time to time. But you can see what I've done here. I have the coal coming out. We've now got that going up into the main building there, where I'm still working, where we did the splitters previously for the iron. And we will continue splitting those as well. one of the tips I was going to show, if you are trying to do a split in the air above the previous split, a useful thing to do is to get your foundations up where you're planning on doing the split, so in this case here. And then we know we're also going to want to do some over here, so we don't necessarily need these floors to be there permanently. But for the sake of this example here, we're just going to pop that one down there, and then we will repeat the process on those there. Can have that one coming in there. And that one to there. Now we can delete this. And there we have suspended splitters. You can add your own aesthetics to make it look a bit more realistic, but you don't need foundations and that kind of stuff to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm just going to continue cleaning up on this one, and we will move over to the main production plant. So this is my thoughts so far. We have 45 per minute being produced on steel. Standard clocking, no overclock. And so I'm merging each one. And the output on this, based on the speed of the connectors here, the conveyor belt Mark III, is 270 per minute. So as long as it's not overclocked, it should be enough to handle it. The only time we may get an issue is if we decide to ramp up production, if we have the capability of bringing more coal in. And then we're going to need to start diverting this, otherwise it's going to start choking. The other thing may be to think, rather than in hindsight, start thinking ahead of plans for that one, so that if I do overclock and I forget that this system is in place with this restriction, that I can simply overclock and not really face the consequences. In which case, most likely the best way to do it would be to have 3 merging into 3. So I'm going to think about that for a bit, and I will continue on building this, and I'll bring you back. Now that we've unlocked some of the architecture, I'm actually starting to beautify a little bit of the building. And this is where we can pop in more items that give that feeling of structure to the building. And then we can add things like the painted beam. Just a drag and drop thing, and you can see it kind of adds a nice element of structural integrity to the building rather than everything cut and pasted together. And I've run out of steel. Typical. Anyway, yeah, so that you get to see a little bit of the beautification items that we can use, and we can also paint them different colours so they stand out a little bit from the building. Might do that, so that we don't have too much of this green everywhere. So yeah, just thought I'd show you that while I'm doing this. So here we are, a little bit more to do. I have 2 more foundries that have to have their goods brought in through the wall here, which is going to be happening from the outside over there. I realise it looks a bit like a mad scientist's fever dream, but it all works. Basically, the way I've done it is that we have, from this side, we have 3 machines that are being fed from the nearest ones in the wall here. They split down equally into these machines here, using elevator and regular belts, and then when they come out, they merge out. And they merge off into a container over there. A separate container to these 3 here, which also merge together and then go into this container over here. This will give us a better flow if we need to split off the production rate if we get very fast later. And it's more than we can handle with our belts. We can have 2 separate containers that are supplying whatever we need to do, should that be necessary. So all I have to do now is these last two machines here. As I say, they're going to be running the lines from outside here along the outside wall and then connecting in through the wall into here. And then it's just a matter of getting the power up and running in here and starting it up. And this is purely at the moment steel ingots. That's it. That's all we're producing here. There's no fancy steel beams or pipes or anything like that. It's just creating the steel ingots. But it's maximized it, hopefully. But the final two buildings have been connected now. We have pipes coming around the outside of the building. I realise this can be a little bit cleaner, probably more carefully calculated to do something a bit flashier, but I kind of like splitting this up and making it look a little bit busy. It's just a building. It does one thing, and that thing it's going to do pretty well. So we have coal, we have iron being fed at maximum velocity into the 6 steel refineries, steel smelters. So I'm going to now connect these up with some power, put a roof on, and get them up and running, and then we'll start thinking about how we're going to do the steel beams. We're on the grid. We have everything set up. All the belts are in place. All the machines are wired up for power, I believe. So all we need to do now is turn this on and see how it's going to handle it. Our flow is very, very small here. We should have enough. It's quite a big factory. Let's go. Yeah, there's a pretty big jump straight away. So we're definitely going to need to deal with some power as well back in the coal. Make sure that we have enough to cover us. And we can see straight away now this stuff is all up and running. What a nice flow we have here. So we're obviously not having 270 coming in per minute. But I believe we have 240 coming in per minute. Put some of that in there. Yeah, it's very nice. 6 ingots at a time chunk there. Let's not forget, of course, we have one machine that is slightly producing less because we definitely don't have enough iron for 6 machines. But I think this is nice. We can overdo it a little bit. We could underclock it, but I don't want to mess around in case I forget which one is underclocked. And I'm sure that when we get the new miner up and running on Miner Mark III, this will be running very, very nicely. Let's see how we're doing so far. Yeah, look at this. And this is, let's not forget, 2 sides. So we've got 3 machines on this side producing for this one, and 3 for that one. I do believe that if we had them all connected to the one, this would be pretty much a solid block of of steel ingots coming through here. So I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that. It's quite quiet as well. And I've also done a bit of a colour swatch change on these items as well. Give it a bit of extra colour. Not sure about the yellow, but I'm kind of liking the red. And I might change that again. Let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. I'll change it. Anyway, there's our steel production for now. That's just steel ingots. And on the roof of this thing, we are going to start producing the steel beams. And we will connect it to this factory over here to do the encased steel beams. So I think at this stage, I'm going to end the episode. We've now got a pretty hefty production line for the steel ingots ongoing, and I think that the steel beams is going to be another episode in itself, especially as we're going to try to encase it given time. So I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope it's taught you some stuff, and if you want to teach me some stuff, please just knock it down there in the comments. I'm not too proud. I'm always open for some advice. And again, thanks to my wife for reminding me about the middle mouse button click thing. Super, super cool. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.